buried a champion in the room. Her name is Jessica Bartholow. She has been with the study since the beginning. And I'm so very grateful that she decided to be a lawyer. Not just a lawyer, but a lawyer for the people, of the people.
All right.
Jessica Green has been an anti-poverty activist for over 20 years, supporting community efforts to end poverty, improving the public social safety net, and preventing violations of human and civil rights against people who are poor. She holds a master's degree in political science and is the 2012 recipient of the Wellstone Wheeler National Anti-Hunger Advocate of the Year Award. And if you've been to Sacramento with us, you know my girl is there walking with us. So please give it up for Jessica Bartholow.
Here to talk about subjugation. Let me just say, I come from the loud side of the room over here. And the loud side loves you too.
Can't pay your ticket.
Yeah, I'm out there. But I said to my neighbor here, I was going to get home and pay it before my husband saw it.
Yeah.
You know, I was so extremely honored to be part of this study. I was, I remember getting the email invitation. It came at a busy time. It's always a busy time. But an invitation from St. Mary's Center is like a call home.
Amen.
It was about 20 years ago when I was a young activist. I left college to be a community organizer after welfare reform because I felt like the national dialogue around welfare reform was a big fat lie.
Okay.
It didn't feel right. And I was in college at the time. My dad and mom, they lived in a disadvantaged area. Where they were was a mobile home park that was nicknamed Vampire Village.
Oh, Lord.
And it was called that because a lot of people at the mobile home park had drug addictions.
Yeah.
You know, and they were stigmatized for their mental health and physical health disabilities.
Right.
The entire community was. This community didn't have potable water. The water was orange, it had rust in it, it was open sewage, you couldn't wash your clothes, you couldn't wash your dishes, you couldn't cook your food, you couldn't take a shower. But it was a place to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
My sister lived on the front porch. There was a tarp around it where her and her husband made their home. And this is what was happening in my family when Congress decided that if you wanted to get help from the government, you better work. So I left college, came out to do organizing, and one of the first places I landed was here in Oakland to do anti-hunger advocacy work and fight against some of the laws passed in welfare reform. 20 years ago, I was at the St. Mary's Center, almost set up just like this, out at the old place. Some of you still remember that. And it was an economic justice, food justice bus tour that we were launching 20 years ago. And it was a bus tour across the state. One of the first of these types of events that I ever attended. So, of course, when St. Mary said, hey, we're going to try to do this thing. It's called participatory research, and I had heard some other people doing participatory research, and I knew that that meant that they were going to ask people who were impacted by poverty to be part of the conversation. So I thought, that sounded good. And we want to try to redefine poverty, and I thought, well, there's lots of definitions of poverty. Well, if you look at the definition of definition, what's the definition of definition? It's supposed to mean that it defines something, right?
Yeah.
But right now in America and globally, we define poverty as a dollar amount.
Yes.
But let me ask you, if you live $1 above that dollar amount, are you still poor? So how try to define poverty. I didn't really know what it meant. I don't think any of us did before we started the conversations. But several weeks, in fact months, we got back together and we followed the exercises. And the exercises we were doing were actually being done in all parts of the country. And one thing that was so fascinating to me, that when all of these conversations were recorded and brought back together, that they were all similar. You know, that it wasn't just us here in Oakland that had experienced shame and stigma. You heard, you saw this beautiful presentation. I loved that. You know, for me, shame and stigma was, you know, was such a part of my childhood growing up, trying to make sure people didn't know that I was poor, being ashamed of my parents because they were so obviously poor through years of poverty. You know, and at the times we were the poorest, you know, you could smell their poverty.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was ashamed. And I'm now ashamed that I was ashamed.
Amen.
So it wasn't just us that had experienced shame of poverty. Everybody. And this was a dimension everybody felt. It wasn't just us that had isolated neighborhoods. Neighborhoods like my parents that was right under the train tracks, by the way. You know, or what we heard earlier, right by the 580, right by the 880 and the 980, not the 580.
Come on.
Everybody experienced being pushed out and isolated in their neighborhoods, in their disadvantaged neighborhoods, where they didn't have sidewalks and they didn't have, you know, the police don't come when you call them for help. They only come when somebody's calling them on you.
Come on.
Or when they're parked outside of your neighborhood to stop you because you have a loud muffler, or you don't have the tags on your car, or you're not wearing the right thing, or you don't have a place to sit, or you're on the wrong bench. Everybody had this experience. The lack of resources, you know, the dimensions were just the same in all these places, and for me that's profound. And one of the pieces that for us here in Oakland really tied it together, it was kind of hard to get to in our conversations, but once we got there, everybody said, yeah, that's it. And that was subjugation. It's a big word, subjugation. I don't think I ever used that word before we started this conversation.
Oh, no.
Right? And so maybe part of it, I remember part of it was like trying to figure out, what does this look like? What does this word really mean? And we looked it up in the dictionary, speaking of dictionary terms. But once we explored what it meant, right, which is somebody else having control, that it's not just that people land in poverty and it's by, you know, they stay there. There's a design. And other people profit off of us being in poverty.
Exactly.
We're poor, so we don't have a place to live, so then we become criminals because we're poor and we don't have a place to live. And who benefits off that? The people that have a job, who get to tell us to move along, who get to tell us that we go to jail because we didn't pay our ticket because we were poor and we didn't have a jail. And then what happens? Then we're in jail. And who gets money off of us being in jail? So people who have a good job, they go to the prison unit and they get to stay home and they go to different communities. Believe me, the people who are the prison guards for people from Oakland don't live in the disadvantaged communities in Oakland. They live up in the hills, they have sidewalks and they have good schools. And then who profits off of that? Well, then somebody goes out to the community, they get out of jail, and then because they have already they have a rap sheet, then they end up in prison. They're more likely to end up in prison, and they're more likely to end up in prison not just if they're poor, but if they're a person of color.
That's right.
And if they live in a community that's disadvantaged.
Exactly.
And when they're there, they might get a job. They might have a job in prison. And they might work for a company that makes a lot of money.
Okay.
And where the shareholders and the corporation heads make a lot of money. And they have lots of homes. And their kids can buy entrance into any college.
That's right.
And when those people work in jail and in prisons, they make 10 cents an hour. But they get some of that 10 cents an hour garnished to pay for the fees that it costs to keep them in prison. Right? This is subjugation. over and over again. People go to work. They work at a retailer. They work at a grocery store. They work making garments. They sew clothes together, and they work for pennies. Pennies compared to the people who sit in an office or go golfing with the president in order to get tax breaks. Who did the work? People will say they should have a higher wage. They should get to earn more. When we understand subjugation, we understand they are earning more. They are earning more. They just don't get to keep what they earn.
Okay.
That's what subjugation is, right? That's what subjugation is. And the subjugation, it runs across all the different pieces, all the different aspects of poverty. Healthcare, same thing. Being poor makes you sicker. You're likely to die 10 years earlier if you've been homeless.
Exactly.
You're gonna need medication. You go to the hospital, you get your health care. You're never gonna get the best health care that other people get. But a lot of people are gonna make money, a lot of money off of the health care you do get. Off of the That's subjugation. So understanding that each of the dimensions have a piece of subjugation that's all tied together, and that it's not an accident. It's not an accident that other people get rich off of poverty in our sector. So to call it out. One last thing in closing, it's easy. This process was very emotional for me, and I know for other people that went through it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you build up a callus when, you have to build up a callus to get through it. But in order to have these conversations, we had to peel the calluses off and expose hard things to talk about.
Yeah.
And it's hard not to get angry at the people who benefit from the subjugation. And so I have to remind myself, and I wanted to share with you what I do to get over that anger, is I remember that nobody is free until we're all free. And James Baldwin said, when we free the captives, we also free the captors.
Hallelujah.
And so when I look at someone and I see that they're lost and they're fighting for a system that subjugates people, I know they're the captors and that I want for them to also be free.
Right.
I want us to be free, and it includes them too. So we have to start by being honest about what poverty is. It's not a line in the sand. It's not a dollar amount. We can't allow this system of subjugation to define us by the same tool they use to subjugate us, which is money. And this report helps us to work against that and outside of that. And for that, I'm so truly grateful to be part of it and to use it as a tool for our policy making, our advocacy, our community building together.